What if Democrats hadn't protected Mueller so much? Would they have been better off just letting Trump obey his own worst instincts and fire this guy? In hindsight, it seems pretty clear the answer is yes. By keeping the pressure on to let Mueller finish his report, they prevented the ultimate obstructive act that would have actually made their case. They made a gamble on Mueller, the straight shooter, refusing to bow to political pressure and being the guy to topple the president. Instead, they got Mueller, the straight shooter, refusing to make himself the story. What he did do was hand Democrats a lot of pretty damning evidence. But if they want to do something with it, if they want to impeach, they're going to have to do it on their own.
And that's a piece from Vice News, the Vice News Network. Time now is 8:47, and with us now is a longtime former Fox 40 News anchor Larry Sparano to make sense of it all. Hey there, how are you?
Yeah, hi, Kent. Interesting report, but take issue with one conclusion there, that if Congress had actually hadn't thrown up such roadblocks to the firing of Mueller, that Trump would have fired him, and therefore it'd be a clear-cut case of obstruction. I think Trump was too smart to fire Mueller. He knew that was just playing into the hands of Democrats, and I'm sure some of his people around him told him about what happened with Nixon and the Saturday Night Massacre when a similar situation took place, firing these people, investigating them. So, no, I don't think that's a valid point at all. Trump knew that if he had fired Mueller, that would have just played into the Democrats' hands. So, but it's in the hands of Congress now. But there's two tracks here to consider. And one is that Mueller went along with the Department of Justice's policy, the unindicted sitting president, which, by the way, I believe is a valid policy. It's legitimate. If you can indict sitting presidents, then you have that made into a political situation all the time, and the presidents would be constantly impeached and removed from office if they could be charged criminally.
And let me ask you this, on that point, I mean, what if the president kills somebody, shoots somebody on Fifth Avenue?
As Trump says he could get away with. In that case, he would clearly be impeached and convicted and removed from office. I mean, Congress would have no other choice. There'd be such a public outrage about that. It'd be so egregious they would have to act. But barring something like that, Kent, to allow a sitting president to be indicted, that would be going on all the time. There'd be all kinds of criminal charges against the president backed by political forces of the opposing party, and the office of the presidency would become very unstable, much to the detriment of the nation.
That makes sense.
Now, the second track with Mueller is that his quote that if we had confidence that the president clearly did not commit a crime, we would have said so. So Mueller did leave that open. He's emphasizing that point, that it's up to Congress to determine. But, if he couldn't come up with sufficient evidence, how well could Congress, if they decide to impeach Trump, how well could Congress determine a true finding of Trump's guilt or innocence? Impeachment and conviction in that case would largely be a political finding, not something where you have an astute application of legal principles and an objective analysis of evidence for or against Trump. So again, Mueller is saying it's up to Congress to find out if Trump obstructed justice. But if Mueller, with his team of highly trained specialists and with his background, could not come up with sufficient evidence in a true, unbiased way, how would Congress do that during impeachment and conviction?
Yeah, but is he saying that he didn't come up with insufficient evidence, or is he saying that he had evidence but he wasn't able to charge, to indict?
No. See, this is a confusion here. He could have concluded that the president did obstruct justice. However, he would not charge him because of the Department of Justice policy about indicting the sitting president. So he clearly did not come up with sufficient evidence to conclude that there was obstruction of justice. This is the point I'm trying to make. That's already being melded together and being muddied.
Right. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And, you're going to tell me that Congress, with how politically charged it is now between the parties, that Congress is going to come up with a true, accurate, objective finding conclusion of the evidence of proving or not proving that Trump was guilty of obstruction. Again, it's going to be a political circus.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, my thinking now, I was thinking, I think somebody did a piece last night on this guy, Amish, the lone Republican who was in the House, who was called for, impeachment of Trump. And they did an interview with some people in his town meeting where he got actually a standing ovation for his position. But one woman said that, hey, I listened to conservative, media, and I didn't know that there was anything negative about Trump in the Mueller report. So my point is that I think a significant number of people, Americans, have not read the report, and I think the fact that as the Democrats keep investigating, and as more and more stuff becomes public and comes out, it's going to be somewhat akin to Watergate, where going into Watergate, most Americans were opposed to impeachment, but as the proceedings, went along, they said, yeah, it makes sense, let's do it.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because largely Trump's spin worked with the Mueller report. Right. And most people didn't examine it in detail. So, this could be the beginning of the breaking of the dam, I suppose, and turning public opinion against Trump. Right. But, again, if it does come to impeachment and then a trial in the Senate to determine whether he should be convicted, I have no faith in how accurate that's going to be. Even though the president may be very, very guilty of all this, what I'm saying is that since Mueller says it's up to Congress, he's throwing it in the hands of amateurs in effect in terms of determining a criminality. Mm-hmm. So in effect, it's thrown into the hands of Congress to become a political finding rather than an objective finding of truth of innocence or guilt. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this is not being sympathetic to Trump. Right. I'm just saying that do you really have faith in Congress really finding out the truth and really coming up with the evidence and interpreting it correctly? I mean, Mueller was in a better position to do that, and he couldn't do that. Again, he wasn't saying that he wasn't guilty of obstruction of justice because he couldn't indict. Right. He could have come to the conclusion that, yes, he did obstruct justice. However, I cannot indict, but Congress could put him on trial in the Senate. After impeachment.
Yeah, I hear that, yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, do you feel that the Democrats are in a situation where they're in trouble if they don't impeach him, in the sense that they'll be considered, having not done their congressional duty and not...
No, just maybe just by the idealists and the super liberals, but generally with the public, no. But what has to happen, I believe, Kent, is that as the Democrats continue to investigate, if they really come up with some egregious smoking guns, where it really will enrage public opinion, where the public will begin seeing this, far beyond just usual politics, political bickering back and forth. If they see some real hard evidence of some really bad behavior, that the public would be really enraged by beyond the political battle. It's like, if suddenly they discover that he did shoot somebody, in obstructing justice, that would turn it around. But short of that, impeachment would still be a dangerous track for the Democrats, because it's going to become such a mishmash, back and forth, all that, going into the election, that it could generate sympathy for Trump, which Nancy Pelosi, has largely been saying all along, although now she's kind of shading that since the Mueller report.
But don't you think, no matter what, Trump is going to run as a victim. He's going to play it. Right. So what do the Democrats have to lose by just, doing the impeachment thing?
Because they're going to all their focus is going to be on impeachment. That's going to be a 24/7 news cycle, and people again are just going to get sick of it and tune it out. It's this would be the Clinton impeachment on steroids. And then look at how that turned out for the Republicans.
Yeah, but
where they actually impeached Clinton, but he certainly they had no chance of convicting him in the Senate. Now the situation is reversed.
Yeah, but what about the fact that back then and back in those days there was no social media, there's really no 24/7, news cycles, and I mean, are we in different times?
Yeah, but Kent, that works both for and against Trump. It works for him because we go on social media all the time looking for all different sources of information, all kinds of different opinions, and there is such a flood of extreme opinion on both ends that social media is just going to muddy the waters even more. It's not going to be, everybody isn't going to line up unsympathetic to Trump. You're going to have his allies in social media and the conservatives flood the internet with a contrary opinion, and they're very good at doing that.
Yeah. That's a fair point. All right, sir. Well, we'll talk again tomorrow. We'll keep on keeping on.
Okay, Ken. Thank you. Talk to you again.
Bye-bye. And that was Larry Sparano, longtime former Fox 40 news anchor down in Binghamton. He and I worked together about 7 years, I think, back in the day. And he has a website which is called On Target with Larry Sparano, which you should check out. You can hear more from him and see him on his website.